number of injuries. And I think later in my career, especially, some of those injuries would have been less or preventable had I listened to my body earlier. Hours in the gym every day with a singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I know it's difficult to kind of take time and understand the big picture, especially when you're living with tunnel vision and you've worked so hard to get to where you're at. But
I feel like no matter what happened, you have to protect you and you have to protect your career. There's no reason to force anything.
What happens when the WNBA's brightest star is sidelined and its biggest legend calls out the league? Caitlin Clark just announced she won't return this season, and Candace Parker says the league pushed too far.
She captioned it in short, in part. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season.
The question isn't just whether Clark recovers, it's whether the WNBA itself can survive losing the player who dragged it into relevance. Stay with me, because what Parker revealed about her own career could decide Clark's future and the league's fate. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine being the #1 rookie in the entire league, finally starting to silence every critic, and right when you've got the momentum, your body shuts you down. That's where Caitlin Clark is right now. She was carrying Indiana, pulling in packed crowds, pushing highlight after highlight across social media, and then suddenly injured.
Well, Coach Steph White had said that they were hopeful that Clark would return by the end of the regular season, but Caitlin was unable to fully reincorporate.
Her season stopped cold with a groin issue, and without her on the floor, the Fever looked completely lost. You can see it in the games. The rhythm is gone, the ball movement isn't the same, and the energy from fans has dipped. And here's the part everyone forgets. Clark isn't just one player on one team. She's the centerpiece of the league's growth. Her minutes, her games, her impact. They directly tie into TV ratings, jersey sales, ticket numbers.
For the regular season, I was like, it's dangerous to come back during playoff basketball because the whole flow, the physicality, all of that is different. And so
that's why the second she went down, the WNBA found itself panicking, because losing her isn't just about Indiana losing games. It's about the league's ability to stay relevant week to week. But that's when Candace Parker stepped in. And see, Parker doesn't mince words. She's been through it. She knows what happens when the league treats the star as a business product instead of a human being. Back when she was in her prime, Parker admitted she ignored injuries, played through things that should have kept her out.
Number of injuries, and I think later in my career especially, some of those injuries would have been less or preventable had I listened to my body earlier.
And did it because the team and the league needed her presence more than they cared about the long-term toll. She's talked about how much she regretted that over time, because you think in the moment you're being tough, showing leadership, proving your value. But years later, it shows up in your knees, in your back, in those painful mornings where just walking into the gym feels like a fight. That wisdom is exactly what she's aiming at Clark right now.
This season, and she hasn't played since July 15th when she suffered a right groin injury in the final minute of the Fever's win versus the Sun.
Her message was blunt. Don't let anyone, whether it's the front office, the coaches, the media, or the league itself, rush you back before you're ready. Parker's whole point is, you may feel pressure to save the season, but reality is the season will end regardless, and your future health is all that matters.
Hours in the gym every day with a singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling.
This is the league that has been desperate to capitalize on Clark's name. And if Clark is tempted to force her way back onto the hardwood too early, she risks cutting her entire career short. Fans might look at this and think, okay, that's just advice, but it goes way deeper. Parker isn't only protecting Caitlin. She's calling out the entire model of how the WNBA views its biggest stars.
In practice, and you know, she had never missed a game in her collegiate career or first year in the WNBA. So this is definitely a blow, I'm sure.
Look at how they've latched onto Clark. Every promo, every highlight reel, every storyline, it's Caitlin at the center. That's not an exaggeration. There have been games where her opponent's stats are unbelievable, but the league's official social media still only pushes Clark's moments. That shows you how desperate the league is for one face to build everything around. It's a strategy that's working in the short term, but Parker sees the danger. When one player becomes the league's lifeline, the temptation to push that player beyond safe limits becomes overwhelming.
I know it's difficult to kind of take time and understand the big picture, especially when you're living with tunnel vision and you've worked so hard to get to where you're at, but
Parker lived this. Late in her career, she admitted her longevity was cut down because of those choices. By pushing through pain year after year, she missed opportunities to extend her prime. That's why her stance on Clark is so firm. The rookie can't fall for the same trap. Because if Clark gets hurt worse, not only does her career trajectory change, but the WNBA is suddenly stripped of its main driver of attention.
and coming in and playing a role and coming in off of an injury. There is a rhythm. But when you are Caitlin Clark and you have the ball in your hands.
When Parker says this isn't just about injuries, she means it's about a system that doesn't think long-term. It's a system that chews players up for immediate results because executives think about next weekend's TV slot instead of the next decade of marketability. So now Clark's sit-out isn't viewed as her own personal recovery. It's a warning flare for the league's survival. Parker has shifted the narrative away from the question of when Clark will return. The bigger question is whether the WNBA will adjust its entire culture to safeguard its brightest star.
For the organization, but also for her. Fever went 8-5 when Clark played and 15-15 without her. You all did win the Commissioner's Cup for the...
Because if they don't, there's a possibility Clark doesn't fight to be part of this league long-term at all. And if that day comes, the fallout wouldn't just be Indiana scrambling. It would leave the entire WNBA gasping for air, suddenly faced with losing the one player who proved she could bring America's attention to them in ways no one had before.
Caitlin Clark announced on her social media that she will miss the rest of the season.
The WNBA isn't just looking at a rookie sitting out games. It's staring at the risk of its biggest star refusing to carry the league's weight. Candace Parker's warning makes it clear this is bigger than one injury. If the league keeps squeezing every ounce out of Clark without protecting her, they're gambling away the very audience she brought in.
I feel like no matter what happened, you have to protect you and you have to protect your career. There's no reason to force anything.
The decision is simple. Treat players like long-term investments or lose them altogether.
Devastating news, I would say, but I don't think it was unexpected given the time period of the season.
Because if Clark chooses her future over the WNBA, this groin injury won't just end her season. It could expose the league's greatest weakness, its dependence on one player.